The next few poses will be done in a standing position. Please move slowly and at your own pace. Keep the sturdy chair nearby for balance if needed. If you find that I'm talking faster than you are moving, please take your time and do fewer repetitions. Take a nice deep inhale and exhale. Place the feet about hips-width apart and grounded on the floor. Lift the toes and spread them nice and wide and feel the navel pull gently in towards the spine. Push the toes into the floor and lean forward just a little bit. Feel the muscles that keep you steady. Lean back just a little bit and feel the toes come up. Feel the muscles that keep you steady in this position. Now push all four corners of the feet into the floor. Notice the steadiness of mountain pose. Notice how the steadiness of mountain pose feels. On the next inhale, roll the shoulders towards the ears, back and down so the shoulders are slightly open. Let the palms rest open to the side. Inhale and let the arms rise with the palms facing up. Exhale, bend at the elbows and allow the hands to come down the center line. Sink into the knees just a little. Repeat this again. Inhale, lift the arms with the palms facing up. Allow the hands and face to be relaxed. Continue with this movement at your own pace. Breathe as you move and try to coordinate the breath with the movement. On the next breath, lift the arms back over the head. Fingertips point in, palms face up. Imagine that you have candles in the palms of your hands and you do not want to spill them. Turn the fingertips so they face behind you. The palms remain up. Turn the fingertips to the side and then to the front like an offering, then out to the side walls. Breathe as you move, up to the top with the fingers facing in again, towards one another, and then forwards like an offering, then out to the side walls. Breathe as you move, up to the top with the fingers facing in again. Let's do this rotation one more time. After the second rotation, allow the hands to cascade down by the side and let them rest. Pause for one slow inhale and exhale. One more breath. Inhale, exhale. This next exercise is excellent for strengthening the spine and gently stretching the muscles of the back, front, and sides. Attempt to make the movement easeful and gentle. We will do these movements with various arm positions. The first arm position is the easiest. Please be sure to stay with the one that feels best for your body. We will demonstrate them all. Take the right hand to the waist, and then the left. Roll the shoulders open. And on the exhale, lean to the right. Inhale to the center. On the exhale, lean to the left. Inhale back to the center. Roll the shoulders up, back, and down. And on the next inhale, gently pull the navel towards the spine. Pull the shoulder blades softly together. Get a small lift in the chin and feel a sense of lengthening through the front of the body. On the next exhale, begin to fold gently forward. It does not have to be all the way. Bend the knees slightly. Inhale and rise back to a standing position. Open the left arm to the side. Keep the elbow bent. Leave the right hand on the waist. Inhale. Exhale, lean slightly to the right, and then return back to the center. Bring the left hand down to the waist. Lift the right arm. Inhale. Exhale and lengthen to the left. Return to the center. Roll the shoulders open. Gently pull the navel in towards the spine. Pull the shoulder blades softly together. Get a small lift in the chin. Exhale and fold forward halfway. Inhale back to standing. Open the left arm again. Inhale, and on the exhale, lean to the right. Inhale and return back to the center. Place the left hand on the waist. Lift the right arm. Inhale. On the exhale, lean to the left. Inhale and return back to the center. Roll the shoulders open. Lengthen through the front of the body. Slightly pull the shoulder blades together. Get a small lift in the chin. Exhale and fold forward. Knees slightly bent. Inhale and return to standing in mountain pose. Pause for a moment. Inhale and exhale. For this warrior sequence, attempt to keep the movements gentle and relaxed. If you notice that you are struggling, move the feet closer together. Lower the arms or make the movement smaller. This pose is great for strengthening the legs, respiration, and opening the shoulders. Step the left foot forward just a few feet. The back foot points in at a 45-degree angle. The front knee bends and the hips face front if possible. Inhale, open the arms and bend at the elbows. On the exhale, bring the hands and elbows towards each other. Inhale, open the arms and push the heart softly forwards. Relax the shoulders. Exhale, bring the arms together. Inhale, open the arms to where you feel comfortable. Exhale, relax the arms inwards. Inhale, open and expand. Exhale, contract. Inhale, exhale. Bring the hands back down by the side, return to mountain pose. One breath here. Inhale, exhale. Step the right foot forward. Take a moment, there's no rush. Ground the back foot into the floor. Bend the front knee. When you are ready, open the arms. Inhale. Exhale, bring the hands and elbows towards one another. Inhale, open the arms. This is a relaxed opening in the chest. Exhale, bring the hands and arms towards one another. Inhale, repeat again, creating spaciousness with a full inhale. Exhale, contract and relax the arms slightly. 2 more times at your own pace. Inhale, open. Exhale, close. Let the hands rest down by the side and return back to mountain pose. Pause here for a few breaths.
Welcome back to the 20th online episode of Peacetime, hosted every Sunday morning by Peace Point with myself, Prat Nicholas Thanissaro, live streaming from Dhammakaya International Meditation Center in Azusa, California. Today's session will be about an hour and 10 minutes long and will consist of a 25-minute talk and 20 minutes of meditation, finishing up with 25 minutes of conclusion and news updates. Last time you saw me, we looked at nipping anger in the bud. The topic for the Dhamma talk today will be lethargic, escaping the procrastination and mediocrity traps. Again, this session I would like to encourage you to send in any questions you have by emailing me at peacetime.questions@gmail.com so that I can have the shot at answering them next time round. I don't know how many of you have seen the original 1999 movie blockbuster Matrix. I know I may be a little outdated because at this point they are about to release the 3rd sequel. Anyway, you may have heard it's more than just an entertaining action movie because it has quite a lot of ideas in it derived from Buddhism and meditation. Apart from people kicking each other and dodging bullets in slow motion, the thing which gives it a Buddhist flavor is the whole idea that most people in this world are deluded right from the cradle to the grave. They may never realize what is actually going on in the world. Although they may seem to enjoy themselves, they sleepwalk through life with a glazed expression on their face. They are born, live their life, and pass away without even so much as suspecting what is actually going on in their life. The Matrix movie is basically about someone who has the chance to see through to the real nature of life, which is that the real world is not a world of sunshine and entertainment. The world we get a glimpse of is a world which is actually very cruel and dangerous, and where you don't get to live forever. And apart from the nature of the world, another thing which our Keanu Reeves character discovers is the unlimited nature of human potential. For example, he finds that a lot of his potential is only limited by what he thinks he can do. If he only believes he can run at 20 miles an hour, then that's as fast as he'll ever be able to run the whole of his life. But if he can remove those mental boundaries to entertain the possibility of maybe running faster than 20 miles an hour, then he finds that he can. It's only a mental limit. Mental power can overcome all physical powers, in other words. You might point out that this is much more convenient to go through life in blissful ignorance, but the Matrix movie illustrates the dangers of going through life without ever waking up to what is actually going on in life. And this observation is rather similar to what I'd like to talk about today, which is why our minds are limited by our beliefs. Why don't we actually wake up and realize our true potential? Why are we content with lethargy? Why do we go through life almost in a dream state? Delusion works on our mind like a sort of drunkenness. A lot of people think that in order to get drunk, you have to go down to the bar or get out of it on non-medicinal drugs. But the fact of life is that even without using any of these substances, a lot of people sleepwalk through life. It's like they never sobered up the whole of their life. A lot of this comes because of assumptions that we make, such as that we're going to be healthy forever, that we're always going to be young forever, or even the idea that death isn't waiting for us just around the corner, as if you're going to live life forever. So we prevaricate about things that are important in our lives. There's a sort of built-in delusion that we tell ourselves lies about, and part of it is because the residue of what we've called impurities or rust in our minds. Certain varieties of these impurities conspire to insert themselves between our good intentions and the actions generated by those intentions. So, today we will be exploring the idea that if we were a little bit more perceptive in life, if we meditated a little more, then we could shake off the drunk feeling that everything is all right as it is, and we don't need to make any special effort. However, if we give in to that complacent side of ourselves, we may find that we are not fulfilling the dreams of the things that we really wanted to do. When I gave this talk in the old days, it was rather weighed down with a lot of heavy guilt-inducing language like drunkenness, recklessness, and laziness that didn't make a lot of sense. So I aim to make today's update of the material into something slightly more actionable for you listeners. The structure of today's talk is to deal with procrastination and mediocrity and look at the sort of lethargy which forces us into these behaviors despite our better judgment. Before the meditation, we'll try to define the problem, especially what we mean by procrastination and mediocrity. After our meditation, we'll try to suggest some remedies for the two manifestations of lethargy. The problem of prevarication or procrastination is that we know the importance of doing something, but we tend to put it off in spite of ourselves. We think we'll get round to it sometime, but we never do get round to it, and there is a whole internal conversation by which lethargy gradually burrows its way deeper into our mind. At first, we get landed with a difficult project, which we must complete by a deadline, and we tell ourselves, oh, I'll start early this time. At the outset, we are usually quite hopeful. The possibility still exists at this time that we'll manage to get it done in a sensible and systematic way. Although we feel unable or unwilling to start right now, we often believe that this start will somehow spontaneously occur with no planned effort on our part. It's only after some time has elapsed and it becomes apparent that this time may not be so different after all, that our hope changes to apprehension. So we remind ourselves, I've got to start soon. The time for an early start has passed and illusions of doing the project right this time are fading. Anxiety builds and the pressure to begin intensifies. Having almost lost hope for a spontaneous start, we now begin to feel pressure to do something soon. But the deadline is not yet in sight, so some hope remains. Then we ask ourselves, what if I don't start? As the time continues to pass and we still haven't made a start, any remaining optimism gets replaced by foreboding. While imagining that we may never start, we have premonitions of horrible consequences that will ruin our life forever. At this point, we may become paralyzed with a dizzying number of thoughts circling around in our head. At this point, we start to blame ourselves with the realization, should have started sooner. This conclusion reflects guilt, a constant companion to procrastinators like ourselves. We look back over the time we've lost and we realize that it's irretrievable. The pressure of circumstances is such that we soon find that we'll have no choice but to begin. Looking back, we regret the behavior that has brought us to the edge of the precipice, knowing we could have prevented it if only we'd started sooner. Your life becomes the experience of constant lament. Then we give ourselves a conciliatory pat on the back with the excuse that I'm doing everything, but It is extremely common for us at this stage to do everything and anything except the avoided project. The urge to reorganize the desk, clean the apartment, or try out new recipes is irresistible. Previously avoided but less onerous tasks cry out to be done now. We write overdue letters, call friends after months of ghosting them, or unpack boxes left from last year's move. In no time we are busy accomplishing things, happily absorbed in any activity that is not the dreaded one. We are soothed by the realization that at least I'm getting something done. Sometimes a displacement activity seems so productive that we actually believe we are making progress on the dreaded project. Eventually, however, it becomes clear that it still isn't being done. And then we feel sorry for ourselves with the thought that I never get to enjoy anything. We think that it's only fair that we try to distract ourselves with pleasurable, immediately rewarding activities. We go to the movies, get together with friends, or spend the weekend sailing. Although we try hard to enjoy ourselves, the shadow of the unfinished project looms over us. Any enjoyment we feel rapidly disappears and is replaced by guilt, apprehension, or disgust. Then the guilt kicks in with the thought that I hope no one finds out. As time drags on and nothing is done, we start to feel ashamed. We don't want anyone to know our predicament. So we create ways to cover up our inactivity. We try to look busy, even when we're not working. We present the illusion of progress even if we haven't taken the first step. We invent elaborate lies to justify our delay. Some people literally hide, avoiding the office, people, phone calls, or any contact that might reveal their awful secret. As the cover-up continues, we usually feel increasingly fraudulent. In response to our excuse about the family emergency that delayed our report, people offer many condolences on your grandmother's death, but you know she is still alive and well playing bridge in Florida. This sense of fraudulence only adds to the pressures that intensify with each passing day. We continue by consoling ourselves with the thought, there's still time. Although feeling guilty, ashamed, or fraudulent, we continue to hold on to the hope that somehow there's still time to get the project done. The ground may be crumbling away underfoot, but we desperately try to remain optimistic and wait for the magical reprieve that never comes. Then you start to beat yourself up with the thought that there's something wrong with me. By now we are desperate. Good intentions to start early didn't work. Shame, guilt, and suffering didn't work. The faith in magic didn't work. Our worry about getting the project done is replaced by a far more frightening fear. It's me. There's something wrong with me. We may entertain the notion that we're lacking something fundamental that everyone else has. Self-discipline, courage, brains, or even luck. After all, they could all get it done. Eventually we come to the final choice of whether to do or not to do. At this point, we have to make a decision either to carry on to the bitter end or to abandon the sinking ship. Another variant on lethargy for people who actually do get round to doing the work is that those who do not apply themselves to the best of their ability, and therefore make a shoddy or a mediocre job of it. Their work lacks thoroughness. Being thorough is really a virtue that is at the heart of quality in the workplace, as well as success in meditation practice. Even those who have known meditation all their lives might still not understand the concept of thoroughness without careful and specific consideration. Similarly, some people are not very thorough about the work they do. They turn in substandard work without a second thought. This is what could be called recklessness in the workplace, but recklessness caused by a lack of thoroughness. Although workers know the full extent of their skills, they don't try their best, and may have many reasons for this, such as, this isn't what I want to spend my life doing, or this job doesn't use my talents, or nothing I do matters. Some people have a grudge against the boss. They make the excuse, what's the use of doing our best for this boss, he's such a loser. But as soon as they change the boss for a new one, they have a new excuse too. Oh, the economic situation is so unpredictable. Who's to know when our company will be downsized? There's no use getting down to serious work. They don't even bother checking the quality of their handiwork, and when someone points out their substandard work, they protest, oh, that doesn't matter. In fact, for those who are skilled and experienced workers, there's nothing that doesn't matter. On the contrary, even one loose screw in a car engine matters. It may be the reason why you lose control of the car at high speed. Even at home, you cannot afford to be shoddy, even in the smallest detail of important tasks such as bringing up your children. You cannot overlook the smallest of bad habits. Never think that small things don't matter, because even a single flame can burn down a whole city. A child that speaks rudely may seem cute, but they will grow up into an adult with the same habit, and by that time it will be too late to change the situation. The downside of lethargy, whether it's procrastination or mediocrity, is that we miss out on doing a lot more with our lives. There's a lot more we could achieve if we put our mind to it, if we were to keep our eye on the ball, and if we were focused about what we really want to get out of life. All of us have dreams of what more in life we could achieve. While some people make the special effort to live out those dreams, others don't do as much as they could. We find ourselves giving in to the lazy side of ourselves. Sometimes we make a lot of excuses to ourselves. Sometimes we go one step further and make up lies to tell ourselves about why we are not doing more with our lives. It's a sort of built-in lethargy that tends to cover over the good intentions in our mind. A compelling reason for us to meditate and to work with the mind is that the way it helps us to indirectly overcome lethargic tendencies in the mind and to wake ourselves up to what more we could do with our lives. To this end, before we start looking at some possible solutions for procrastination and mediocrity, we take the opportunity to settle ourselves for some meditation. If you would like to find a comfortable sitting position for yourself now, as you listen to my guidance. So start by closing your eyes very gently. Adjust your posture so that your back is fairly straight. So that you're breathing easily and your circulation is unimpeded. Put your hands gently in your lap with your right hand over your left hand and the index finger of your right hand touching against the thumb of your left hand. You can be sitting in a half lotus position, or you could be sitting on a straight back chair. As long as you're not going to fall asleep halfway through, then the meditation should go successfully for you. And follow the breath deep inside the body. While scanning down through the whole of yourself, relaxing each and every muscle as you go, the muscles of your forehead, letting your eyes gently close rather than closing your eyes, letting the muscles of your face become soft, relaxing your jaw especially, being careful not to clench your teeth together. Then relaxing your neck and shoulders, letting your shoulders drop to their natural height. Relaxing your arms, forearms, hands and fingers, so that the way your hands rest in your lap is as light and gentle as possible. And continuing on down, relaxing the whole of your torso, chest, trunk, and your abdomen, both legs, all the way down to your feet and your toes, until no part of your body remains with any sort of stress or tension anymore. In the same way, you can relax your state of mind, putting aside any worries or concerns in your life, as if you are alone in the world, a person with no past and no future, really focused in the present moment and on the task in hand. Conjuring up a sense of well-being within yourself, as if well-being were made up of tiny particles inside yourself, particles of happiness and joy that grow and spread to fill the whole of your body and mind. Leaving no space inside yourself for any other sort of thought. And when you feel relaxed and refreshed, both in body and in mind, very gently and using no effort at all, imagine the whole of your body to be nothing but a hollow cavity or an empty shell. Perhaps you might prefer to think of your whole body as being like a transparent bubble with nothing on the inside. And in the middle of the body, on the level of the diaphragm, is where the in-breath will go to the deepest point inside. The center of the body that we are particularly interested in is the breath's turning point, where the breath pauses for a moment between the in-breath and the out-breath. You could call this point the source of peace within. Allow the consciousness or the feeling inside to befriend and become familiar with the center of the body inside. As our awareness remains internalized with the centering mind, all you need to do is gently maintain that inner image that you've conjured up, or inner feeling, at that chosen point at the center of yourself. This is the way by which the mind finds its equilibrium and rests gently at the center of the body. Since this point is the essence of peace, and some believe the essence of life itself, something that is always bright. Our subjective feeling can detect the brightness on the inside. The feeling is just how we feel and what we feel, without any questions about why. But the feeling tells us that we are inside and all within is bright, for as long as we maintain the mind softly centered in the process of our meditation. Every time the mind is at the center of the body, it has the possibility of reconnecting with the inner spark. So maintain your attention gently inside the body and allow the mind to return to its original pure state. Amid the brightness, allow the mind to expand. Let the area, the volume of brightness expand and enlarge to an endless horizon. Allow brightness to enlarge without limits, radiating forever outwards. Amid the feeling of contentment in the surrounding inner brightness, a point at the very center of the body is the brightest of all. The tiniest point in the middle of the brightness. It's like detecting diamond brightness sparkling in the middle of the full moon brightness. All around, the brightness of the moon envelops us, but we touch our attention gently at the most precious and diamond bright place in the middle of the full moon brightness. Observing the brightness of the diamond in the enveloping moonlight, allow the mind to delight in the diamond brightness, the same brightness as that is found at the center of the lotus in the Tibetan Om Mani Padme Hum chanting. Allow the mind to rest gently within the body. Allow the mind to be surrounded by the feeling of brightness all around. This physical body of ours will deteriorate and become more decrepit over time. But the light of serenity inside keeps us forever young. The physical body can grow old, but the internal being remains ageless, always bright and shining over time. So we gradually become one and the same as the feeling of brightness within the body. We can beautify the inner being by meditation to magnify and multiply the inner light of serenity, so that inner agelessness is in our own hands. We can make our life brighter and brighter by meditation. And we could make the world brighter as well by sharing the inner light, by radiating the brightness from the inside out, while reminding yourself that your time of meditation should be the best time of your day. So now we continue to maintain the mind at the center by observing the inner bright diamond sparkle in the middle of the moonlight brightness for a few more moments in silence. And we continue to maintain our awareness at the center of the body the whole of the time, delighting in the diamond bright sparkling at the center of the enveloping moonlight, and share this kind of brightness with all around us. We share by radiating the brightness outwards, initially to fill the whole of ourselves, wishing ourselves to be well and happy, free from suffering, with the full force of forgiveness for ourselves. And then we share this brightness with all around us. We share by radiating the brightness outwards into the environment around us. As meditators, we are like sentinels of all that is bright and wholesome on this earth. If a single meditator can bring brightness and wholesomeness to our planet, imagine how bright and beautiful the world could become if everyone in the world reconnected with the inner light. So delight in expanding the brightness outwards, initially to the whole room where you are sitting for meditation, then wider outwards to the whole building, the whole neighborhood, almost like an aura or a halo that you are extending around you. Outwards to the whole city, wherever you may be, whole state, neighboring states, the whole country, all the continents of the world, until our brightness extends across the whole of this planet, with a sense of compassion and forgiveness for all, no matter who or what they may be, until the area of brightness feels infinite. It grows and expands wider and brighter throughout the world, with a wish that everyone on earth could one day reconnect with their inner light, while remaining mindful of the precious nature of the opportunity all of you have taken in giving yourself the chance to gain inner light for your own benefit. So we continue gently to maintain the mind at the center by observing the bright diamond sparkle in the middle of the moonlight brightness for a few more moments in silence. สัพพธัมมานุภาเวนะสัพพสังฆานุภาเวนะสัทธาโสธีภาวันตุเท So if you'd like to come to the end of your meditation for today, you can gradually open your eyes again. If you feel at all uncomfortable, then slowly try changing to a more comfortable position and gently finish your practice. So before our meditation, we looked at how lethargy in the form of procrastination and mediocrity can undermine the quality of our lives. Now, with our minds freshly energized by our meditation, we turn our attention to what we can do to overcome lethargy in the mind. Let's start by looking at procrastination. The opposite of procrastination is motivation. One of the world's foremost researchers on the science of motivation and procrastination, called Peter Steele, in his 2011 book, The Procrastination Equation, deconstructs procrastination in a way that allows us to see how it can be overcome. Motivation is the willingness to do work, and Peter Steele argues that motivation is boosted by expectancy and value, while motivation is diminished by impulsiveness and delay in getting a reward. The first factor in the equation is expectancy, or as Buddhists might put it, a sense of urgency. The first step in overcoming procrastination is to give ourselves a sense of urgency. Meditation, of course, helps us to confront the things in our mind which conspire to make us lethargic and complacent in the first place, because we have to face up to the reality of ourselves and the nature of our mind every time we meditate. For example, when we meditate and feel sleepy, then we have to adjust the mind immediately to overcome that hindrance. If we meditate and we feel pain, then we have to confront that. We can't run away from it. So every time we meditate, we learn something about ourselves and reality, especially in the microcosm of our mind. But if we're smart, it's not only when we meditate that we notice these sorts of things. We can use other aspects of our life as triggers to help us to wake up to what is really happening in life, and maybe to see the opportunities by which we can do more. In fact, there are many life experiences which can be learning experiences. Some people have run-ins with disaster and they can learn from those. Some people, if they are pushed to their limits, they find they are learning more about themselves than they normally would. For example, if you narrowly avoided injury in a climbing accident, it might make you feel more grateful about things you normally take for granted in life. So you can consider that a learning experience. In fact, you don't have to risk your life or play Russian roulette for that matter in order to feel alive. You can potentially learn something valuable from every situation. But the problem is normally that we don't push ourselves very hard, let alone to our limits. If we were to do that in various situations, we would tend to learn more about ourselves than if we just go through life on autopilot. Even doing routine work at the office can become special if you try your best at everything you do, allowing you to learn more about yourself and your own potential than if you just do things in a half-hearted way. Going back to Peter Steele's equation, the sense of urgency or expectancy refers to how much you expect to succeed at doing the task and thereby getting the anticipated reward. The more you expect being successful, the less you're going to procrastinate about it, especially if you consider life is short and limited opportunity to achieve what matters to you. The second factor mentioned in the equation is value. One of the earlier sessions, number 8 if I'm not mistaken, explained that one byproduct of learning to meditate is that we tend to feel more of a sense of meaning and purpose in life. We start to ask ourselves more frequently why we are doing what we do, instead of just doing it and feeling glad to get it over with. We know that working gets us a salary, but what's the point of a salary if it fails to bring you happiness? We might ask ourselves if there is something better we could be doing. It's these sort of questions that tend to come as a byproduct of scrutinizing ourselves with an eye to improvement. According to Piers Steele, value refers to how much you enjoy doing a task and how much you're going to enjoy the reward. The more value you derive from a task or reward, the more likely you are to get straight down to work. The third factor in the equation is impulsiveness. Often problems in life come because we are distracted by things which are not so important for us. For example, we might want to learn a new language, but instead of being able to put in 4 hours a week to learn that language, there's always something interesting on TV, or there's always another phone call to answer. And in the end, you don't know where all your spare time went. If you have a clear idea of what we want to achieve, then that would be number one in our priority list. But if we're not clear, then the other things tend to come and rob us of our time. Clear priorities help us allocate our time a little bit more carefully. According to Piers Steele, impulsiveness refers to your tendency to get distracted by other things. High impulsivity lures you to Instagram or Facebook instead of doing the work at hand. Therefore, we need to minimize anything that exposes us to impulsivity, at least until the job is done. The final factor in the Piers Steele equation is delay. If you do something immediately, such that it means as soon as you think of it, often it can get done very quickly and effortlessly. But if you put it off, then the guilt that you haven't done it yet tends to become something which will clutter up your mind. And that's the reason why your mind doesn't settle down very quickly when you try to meditate. Delay refers to the time lapse until receiving the anticipated reward. The longer the delay, the more likely you are to procrastinate as you figure it's something you can just take care of later. To overcome procrastination, we want to maximize expectancy and value as they are directly proportional to motivation, and we want to minimize impulsiveness and delay as they are inversely proportional. So, let's see how we can put some of these principles into practice. First, if you have got a long and arduous task ahead of you, try breaking it down into smaller steps. Doing so will increase expectancy or urgency in our procrastination equation, because smaller tasks seem much easier to accomplish than larger tasks. While everyone has a different sweet spot, most people find that having a clear timeline is helpful for keeping track. For example, when I had to write an 80,000-word dissertation, I broke it down into making sure I wrote 500 words each day. When I wanted to learn a language, I broke it down into completing a couple of lessons on the Duolingo app each day. Number 2, keep the tasks small. The hardest part of getting work done is just starting. A useful way to address this is to try using Francesco Cirillo's Pomodoro technique, where you work at your task in 25-minute blocks, each separated by a 5-minute break. The inventor's funny story is that the technique is named for the tomato-shaped wind-up kitchen timer that he used to time his study sessions as a university student. During each block, you focus on just one small task. Going back to our equation, this increases expectancy. If I sat down to study and I told myself I needed to study for 5 hours straight, I would definitely get distracted very, very easily. But if instead I tell myself I only need to study for 25 minutes on this one little task, it becomes far less daunting, and it becomes much easier not only to get started, but also to stay focused for the 25-minute Pomodoro. Number 3, set the bar low. This is yet another trick to increase the expectancy in our equation. Set the goal to something less than what you are actually capable of. I know people who have used this principle to fit meditation into their daily routine. They know they want to work their way up to 2 hours of meditation each day. But with such an ambitious goal, they only get round to doing it a couple of times per week. It just feels like they never had time to actually sit down and do 2 hours of meditation, so they rarely did it at all. So they lowered their expectations by aiming to meditate just 20 minutes every day. By lowering the bar, they find themselves meditating most days, and even though they set the goal as just 20 minutes, they almost always exceeded it. Number 4, try to incorporate enjoyment into the experience of doing your task. Removing boredom will increase value, and that in turn helps us overcome procrastination. So how do we increase value? One way is by giving yourself a reward for completing a task. For example, you can reward yourself with a healthy and tasty snack, or by hanging out with your friends after and only after you finish your task. Alternatively, you can improve the experience of working on the task itself. To improve the experience of studying, for example, consider mixing up your work environments or listening to inspiring music as you work. Number 5, use Parkinson's law to your advantage. Yes, I did say Parkinson's law and not Murphy's law. The idea that you can complete your task at a later time can crush even the most productive individuals. Along comes Parkinson's law, which states that work expands to fill the time available, meaning if you have only 30 minutes of work to do, but you allot 2 hours of your free time to do it, then you'll end up spending the entire 2 hours on the task. The way to avoid this is to create artificial deadlines that force you to get work done more efficiently. These artificial deadlines decrease delay in our motivation equation, thus decreasing the likelihood of procrastination. The trick is to not be too aggressive with your timeline, as it can lead to unnecessary stress. With time, you will get more accurate at gauging how long a task will take and how to use Parkinson's law to your advantage. Number 6 is to be deliberate with your work environment. We can all agree that one of the biggest killers to our productivity is our distractions. Avoiding distractions through sheer willpower is unlikely to be fruitful long-term. So instead, adjust your work environment to minimize distractions. In doing so, we are decreasing impulsivity from our motivation equation. This might mean placing your phone on airplane mode, switching your computer to Do Not Disturb, and going full screen with the work at hand. If working at home distracts you, then opt for a library or a coffee shop instead. Above all, make sure you minimize your digital distractions, because any other type of distraction pales in comparison to the focus-killing nature of notifications from your phone, smartwatch, or computer. Can you believe they now have an app called Checky to tell you how many times a day you check your phone? Apparently, the app creator is better known for another meditation app advertised on the first one. And last but not least, number 7, understand your personality type. The issue with advice in general is that any suggestion may work wonders for one individual, but not for another. Of the previous 6 tips, I am doubtful that any of them will not work with you, but I'm confident that some of them will work much better than others. A big part of optimizing your own life, whether it's productivity or study habits, diet, exercise, or anything else, is understanding your own strengths and weaknesses. One of the tips that didn't make this list, for example, is accountability, and that's because it's highly effective for some individuals with an extroverted personality type, but significantly less so for introverts. Additional strategies such as a loss aversion, challenging your own excuses, in other words, not telling lies to yourself, making goals observable, revising your goal, and giving yourself feedback may also be successful for procrastinators of particular personality types. So these are all ways of dealing with procrastination. But what can you do if your problem is not so much avoiding work, but not doing the work to the best of your ability? This can often be the case when, for example, when a few months in we find we have been doing meditation as if it were a chore. When we started out meditation, it came with a sense of awe and wonder, but somewhere along the way it lost its sparkle. One way we can pull ourselves back from the slide into mediocrity is to try to see the danger in small things. One of my own teachers, Venerable Thanissaro, the vice abbot of the main temple in Thailand, used this approach to overcome sleepiness that he suffered for many years when he was learning to meditate. Every time he meditated, he found himself falling asleep. It's a common problem meditators have. Often it doesn't come from the fact that you're tired, but it's like a hindrance which tends to come up when you're meditating, where you get lethargic in the way you apply your attention, so you tend to doze off, not because you're tired, but because it's a quicker way of getting the meditation over with. So he found many ways to try to overcome sleepiness, and he never gave up trying to find ways to overcome the sleepiness arising in his meditation. The first thing he tried was meditating on a riverbank, where, if he started to nod off in his meditation, then he would fall straight into the river. But he found that even that didn't wake him up or stop him from getting sleepy in his meditation. Then, seeing as he was now up to his neck in river water, instead he tried sitting for meditation in the river with the water up to the level of his nostrils, so that if he even started to nod, then he would choke on the water. Again, it didn't work. He tried every sort of meditation cushion imaginable, and even sitting on things like a bed of nails, in order to try to boost his level of wakefulness while meditating. He thought maybe it was a sinus problem, not getting enough oxygen to the brain, so he had surgery done on his nose to remove any possible blockage, but still he felt sleepy. All this effort still failed to wake him up, but he didn't give up exploring ways to overcome the obstacles. He tried to examine any small thing that might be having a big effect on his meditation. In the end, he found out it was a problem of his posture. He found if you are not sitting up straight in meditation, then you get sleepy. Before taking up meditation, he had been a boxer for many years, and so he had injuries which led him to not sit up quite straight when he was meditating, and that was the reason for his sleepiness, which he would eventually overcome by getting massage therapy until his posture improved. So the moral of this story is that if you are detailed enough in your inquiry, you can learn to overcome obstacles which might cause a less dedicated person to give up along the way. The key to overcoming mediocrity is that you have to give importance to the possibly small and insignificant things in your life. You may think to yourself, when you meditate, a few noises here and there aren't going to disturb anyone very much. But if your mind is getting quiet, then if someone else in the group is making a rustling noise, then that might be the thing which makes a difference that day between you making a breakthrough in your meditation or not. So we have to be quite careful even about possibly small things which might be overlooked in another context. For example, does it make a difference whether you have a thin meditation mat or a thicker one? Does it give you a better posture for meditation? Maybe that small difference is going to be the thing which will allow you to reach your tipping point. Progress in meditation sometimes comes in small and gradual increments. If you don't try to be observant, then it might pass you by. You may not think, oh, I haven't made any progress in my meditation recently, because you haven't been observant enough of the small changes which are going on. If you were to keep a diary of those small changes, you would notice in your meditation after a week that would add up to something which you'd recognize as progress. But from day to day, you wouldn't notice those small changes. So a second way of waking yourself up to the possible changes when you're meditating is to keep a diary of what's going on, almost to keep records in a scientific way. The third way to overcome mediocrity is to push yourself to your limits in everything you do. It may mean trying to be thorough, not just in things which you're paid for, but in everything which you do. If you try to be thorough, tidying up after yourself, for example, or making sure that everything you do is done to the best of your ability, then that in itself can ginger up even seemingly boring tasks. Furthermore, if you don't use up what you do in your life, that is, if you don't use the abilities you have in your life to discover more about your strengths and weaknesses, then you may find that not only do you learn nothing new about yourself, but even the wish to learn about yourself gets eroded. There's a sort of undermining of your interest to work on yourself at all. Once you start doing things at less than your full ability, then you find that more and more, then you can't be bothered to do things to your full ability anymore. The scary thing is that one day you'll find that when you don't use your skills, then you will lose them. A fourth way to overcome mediocrity if you have a lazy day is don't give up, but don't let that laziness happen for 2 days in a row. A fifth way is to build up the habit to try to put the blame on yourself before you put the blame on other people in any situation. Whether it's true or not that another person is to be blamed for a situation in which we find ourselves, if we try putting the blame on ourselves first, then it can be very pragmatic because changing something about ourselves is normally much easier than it is to change someone else who is causing the situation for us. If there's a part of a situation we can change by changing ourselves, that's normally the much easier way out of the situation. A sixth way is to overcome mediocrity is, instead of taking the easy way out, is to try and find ways to do things the right way, even though it may be more arduous for us. Although we might be tempted to sweep the dust under the carpet, eventually the dust under the carpet is going to come back to haunt us in one way or another. And finally, remember, you don't have unlimited time to do things or do them well, because there is nothing more uncertain than our own future. To quote the immortal words of Muhammad Ali, live every day as if it were your last. What we find, whether it's mediocrity or procrastination, is the unmatched power of the mind to make a difference, for harm or benefit in our lives. Attitudes of mind can be very powerful. And before we finish, I believe we have time for a quick story, which happens to be one of those true stories that are crazier than fiction. So here comes the story. It's the story of a guy who got himself locked in a reefer. And disambiguation warning, by reefer I mean a refrigerated railroad boxcar, not the other kind. Well, normal reefers, like fridges, have got handles on the outside, but once you're on the inside, you can't open them, right? Because your frozen peas or whatever don't need to get out. It is a story about a guy called Nick Sitzman, a strong, young bull of a man who worked on a train crew. It seemed Nick had everything: a strong, healthy body, ambition, a wife and 2 children, and many friends. However, Nick had one fault. He was a notorious worrier. He worried about everything and usually feared the worst. Nick's job was to inspect reefers, and normally on the crew they would work in pairs. But as it was Midsummer's Night, Nick's partner asked to go home early to attend a party. So Nick said he would finish the inspection of the final reefer on his own. During the inspection, a gust of wind slammed the door shut behind him, leaving him trapped inside. And his first thought was to shout for help. So he shouted as loud as he could until his voice was hoarse, but no one could hear him. And then, as time went on, he started to feel colder and colder. And then he banged as loud as he could until his fists were bloodied, but still no one came to his rescue. Meanwhile, he felt yet colder and colder until it felt like all of his organs were shutting down inside because of the cold. Wanting to let his wife and family know exactly what had happened to him, Nick found a knife and began to etch words on the wooden floor. He wrote, "It's so cold, my body is getting numb. If only I could just go to sleep. These may be my last words." He gave up shouting, and he actually died there on the floor of the reefer. The next morning, the crew turned up for work and slid open the heavy doors of the boxcar, finding Nick dead inside. An autopsy revealed that he had died of, wait for it, shock. In fact, the refrigeration unit of the car was inoperative, and the temperature inside had never dropped below 55 degrees. Nick had killed himself by the power of worry, giving new significance to the expression "worried to death." Because he thought he was being frozen to death, he got himself riled up into such a state that he actually did die of the delusion he was freezing to death. This goes to show that your state of mind can be very powerful. If your delusions are strong enough, they can be the reason you fail to use your potential or use your intelligence to the full to achieve what you wanted to do in life. The reefer inspector could have sat it out. He wouldn't have starved to death waiting overnight for his colleagues to arrive. But because he thought he was freezing to death, he actually did. In the same way, we can get locked into our own preconceptions, especially concerning our own lethargy. This is why we need to use our meditation or to break free of the traps holding us back from our true potential in life. So today we've talked about getting trapped by the clutches of our lethargy. We have highlighted some of the strategies we can use to wake up to our true potential. You could say that at root, lethargy is any sort of ignorance, a form of delusion which we have in our mind. But if we can see lethargy for what it is, we can learn and improve in spite of it. Like the people in Matrix movie who didn't wake up, there's always a tendency to slip back into lethargy unless we make the effort to constantly wake ourselves up to the situation. In the movie, the choice boils down to what color of pill that you want. The choice is between the red pill, which represents revealing an unpleasant or otherwise life-changing truth, or the blue pill, which represents remaining blissfully ignorant. In our case, the red pill means doing the work on ourselves to fight back against the delusions of procrastination and mediocrity, which is never going to be easy, but will allow us to reach our dreams despite anything holding us back from those. So let me finish up with a quick mention about temple support and a news update about the availability of meditation teaching in English. At the moment, with the extra strict stay-at-home order statewide in California, anyone wanting to make a contribution to the temple in person should contact the temple first. If you would like to bring food to the temple during this period, all you need to do is phone up Crystal first on 626-991-6958, and a monk in PPE will come to receive the offering and give a short blessing at the temple gate. English-speaking monks will be on duty on Wednesdays and Saturdays. As for temple donations, you can see, probably down here, the details of the ticker tape for those wishing to support the temple without attending in person. Needless to say, the whole temple would like to rejoice in the merits of all taking the opportunity to support the temple in this way. Meditation is particularly valuable in this COVID era to help us cope with the extended lockdown. In this respect, here at the temple, although there are still no face-to-face teaching sessions for the interim, you can access Dhamma teachings in English at the YouTube channel called Peace Point Meditation or the Facebook page of Peace Point Meditation. For those of you who have been following my talks, you may be interested to subscribe to a YouTube channel which I have recently set up in my own name, which can be found by searching for Prat Nicholas Thanissaro on YouTube, where I have uploaded more than 100 clips of meditations, Dhamma talks, funeral talks, talks with children, and so forth. Meanwhile, there is a streamlined schedule by popular request for 2021 on Peace Point. Every Sunday morning, you have now got me with live material and archive material on alternating Sundays. Venerable Sopon now appears every Thursday evening. Meanwhile, Peace Breaks from Peace Point are broadcast every Monday and Wednesday between 7 and 7:30 p.m. There's a silent meditation broadcast each Friday between 7 and 8 p.m. For the benefit of families listening in, there's also a special show for children in English known as Shining Stars that goes out between 7:30 and 8 p.m. every Monday evening with bedtime stories and a meditation short enough to keep the attention of younger listeners. One of the live streams, outside of the live streams and on-demand programming, there is also the newly updated MindGem app, which you can download for free, allowing you to listen to meditation and Dhamma talks in English on your cell phone even when you are offline. So this session we have looked at the topic of lethargic, escaping the procrastination and mediocrity traps. For my next live session online with you, which will, fingers crossed, be a week on Sunday morning, we'll be moving on to look at something along the lines of arrogance and erroneous self-image. For good measure, I would like to remind viewers that even better than posting thank you or great talk or sadhu in the broadcast comments, you can email your questions about meditation or what you've heard in the lecture to the email address as you can see spelled out in the slide, and I will do my best to answer these on my next session. In the meantime, try to stay healthy, avoid recklessness or complacency in the face of the virus, maintain a positive mood, speak only positive words, forgive others, extend good wishes to others, and meditate daily. Also, despite the cabin fever of lockdown, may be well and truly able to relegate the traps of procrastination and mediocrity to the rearview mirror in 2021 and be at the front of the line when they start the vaccinations. So today, this is me, Prime Nicholas Thanissaro, signing off for this session. So long, folks, and stay safe.